Folks, a few days ago, Dean was posting his response to the Unit 5 discussion task, and he noted that he found a lot of the Factset data didn't necessarily match the annual reports, and wasn't quite sure why. And I said that I'd do a quick video to explain why. So that's what we've got here. So I've got on the left-hand side, I've got JB Hi-Fi, the actual annual report. On the right, I've got Factset. Now, let me just make this comparable. I'll click on custom. I'm going to click down and get 2 years here. I've got 22 on the left, then 2021. So I'm just going to reverse the order here so that I can compare this. The key here is as reported versus standardized. So if you want to see what was actually in the Appendix 4E for the Australian firms, which is kind of the financial statements that will end up as the annual report, as reported is what you want. Standardized is where the Factset analyst, as they say here, provide a financials adjusted to fit into a standard template, and that's so that they can calculate ratios for all of their organizations in a consistent manner. So what do we see? 9232, yep, sales, cost of sales, gross profit, net interest. Let's click on that. That's the finance costs of 20 million that we can see down on the annual report, less the other income of 3, which they've determined as finance related. It's relating to their interest income. So 881 sales and marketing matches the annual report, occupancy of 303 matches, admin of 42, other of 62, that all matches. If we click on cost of sales, you can see that that opens up a new tab, and it actually takes you to the document that JB Hi-Fi filed with the tax office, and this is the ASX statement that they lodged at the time they announced their earnings. Remember that the annual report comes a bit later on. If I go to standardized, we will see it broken out into a slightly different manner so that we can see we've still got the same cost of sales number, although it's now called cost of goods sold, including depreciation and amortization. So slightly different terminology here. If I click on that number, I can then see the cost of goods sold excluding depreciation and amortization, and separately the depreciation and amortization number. And again, we can click through and find out where those numbers come from. So if you're trying to reconcile this, you can reconcile this as you're going through. Let me just try and make that a bit larger so we can see it. So that's in note 6 to the financial statements in expenses. If I wanted the cost of sales, I've got that 7.15 billion. I've got I'm taking out and putting back in the defined contribution expenses. I've got the other employee expenses, but we're now excluding the depreciation of both plant and equipment and the right of use. That's their leased assets. So again, you should be able to click through and try and reconcile if you go back to the actual Factset page. Of course, if you're just looking at what you've downloaded on Excel, it's not necessarily going to be clear exactly where everything's coming from. But that's kind of just a brief overview of what the differences are between what you see on Factset and what you'll see on the annual report.